Welcome, everyone. I'd like to welcome you today to the San Diego Fine Woodworkers Association CNC Special Interest Group. And we get together the third Saturday of every month. Plus, we have a forum online that we can go to post information about the projects we're working on, questions we have, and other interests. Today, we have a special guest speaker. His name is Chris Scott, and Chris is going to be talking to us about some of the projects he's working on and some ideas he has for additional things that we might be able to be involved in. And so I will hand it off to Chris.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chris.
Great. I wish this was the 7 o'clock Friday evening one, where I have a glass of wine rather than having to stick with coffee. However, it's a very auspicious day for some people in the world because it's the 15th of August, which is the glorious 15th where the grouse season starts. So this explains no doubt why there are not too many people here yet. They're all shooting grouse, but they have to either shoot them with a bow and arrow today or use a falcon, because the gun season doesn't start for another month. I basically have started with the most simple, obvious concept that you can imagine. When we basically all know what a 2x4 is, and we've been building houses with 2x4s for about 200 years when the forests were getting too small to provide logs, and but that is fine if you can get that out of a large log without any problems. But nowadays, most of the logs that we get are much smaller, and getting a 2x4 out of a small log is not good because the wood will twist and warp. If we use shaped wood, and this is iWood here, we can sometimes, this is one of our shapes, sometimes we can get two pieces of wood out of one log. And the concept that we're working with is that iWood and tree cycling are working with is trying to improve the yield of the forests to the point that we can have a sustainable forest rather than the forestry system that we have at the moment, where all new trees basically are planted trees in a plantation, and they're mono agriculture, just one type of tree. So that, but this simple idea, basically, we have a whole family of different shapes. That is what we call a 2i4, shaped a little bit like an I. This is a bit like an H, and so we call that a 4H4. And we've got various other shapes. That's a D shape, that's a C, and it all comes in different sizes. We've got 3 different sizes, but all of the angles are the same. These are all 45-degree angles. This and all the pieces match together. The 2x2 version slots into the 2x4 version, and then the 1x2 version slots into the next size down. So we've got a complete family of different products that match together, work together, and react together. All of the grooves are made by 2 different sizes. We have a male and a female size, and so they just cut out the section in the middle.
Chris, excuse me, but you're holding up things that are way down in the corner of the screen.
Oh, okay.
Some of them are hard to see.
You're going to see more of me. That's bad, though.
Thank you. That's great. That's a little higher. Is right in the center of your field of vision.
Okay, good.
That's perfect.
Perfect.
Good. So that is making all of the shapes, but there are three different sizes. That's the smallest one, next one up, and then the largest one is basically on a different system, but it's the same shape. But imagine that as 3.5 inches. So basically, we're talking about trying to improve the use of wood by a number of different factors. And basically the first one is the groove aspect, where the bits fit together and groove, and they basically lock together.
Sorry, Chris, that wasn't visible.
There
There
you
we
go.
go.
Tilt your camera down.
Okay, we'll try that. So we've got the groove that works. And then the ultimate thing that I'm trying to do is to combine the groove with a dowel. So we've got one groove piece here, and then we've got the groove here. And if we have the female hole here and the male hole and the groove there, basically we've got a completed corner. And if it's possible to make those component parts using the accuracy that you can do with CNC, this might be a different way for producing kits that people can put together themselves. And we'll talk about that right at the end. So what I'd like to do now is just to go on to, or just, sorry, one more quick thing. All of these sizes mix and match so that the 2x4
There you go.
and you can have different cuts. So you could have two different blade sizes that join together to make, I mean, that's a banister, perhaps made from what you have left over in the shop. And you can go out and buy that for $2 a foot, or you can make it yourself for, I'm sorry, this is, yeah.
There you
Okay, I'm slowly getting there.
go.
Good. If we could now, Ed, if you could just go to the video, which explains how the system can be used, using it for housing. But
Okay.
Good. Thanks. All yours. Do I have to do anything? Do I have to stop sharing screen?
No, you weren't sharing, so I've got it. Just take me a moment.
Profile lumber iWood is basically an IKEA-type concept, which makes it possible for unskilled people to put their own home or furniture together, just from looking at pictures. We have changed the shape of lumber. The system that we've used is taking a groove out of the side of the lumber, which enables the parts to interlock and make a much stronger unit than is possible when you're just relying on friction and the nails that go into it. The grooves not only add strength to the end structure, but they also provide an accuracy which is almost impossible to get with conventional lumber. The holes are all pre-drilled wherever possible. The lengths are exactly right, and iWood fits together like Lego.
Okay.
Good. We're going to kill that.
California homeowners, if you have a power meter.
Stop sharing.
Okay, so I'm back on screen, right?
Yes.
And just to want to follow the groove idea a little bit further. In order to get two pieces of wood tied together using the groove, you can just, suddenly you've got a really strong joint that just glue is enough to hold that together. And if we wanted to make a door or a chopping board or something like that, this is 5 pieces of 1x2 with a groove on each side, a male groove on one side, a female groove on the other side. And it's got the same at the top. And all of that, the only thing in holding that together is the 4 dowels. And that's, so you've got movement. If you're making a door that you know is going to expand and contract, you can just do it to that level. Or if you want to glue it together, this is the same thing. We've got that's completely glued together just using dowels together. And that's just about as strong as you can possibly get. It's almost as strong as plywood.
Everyone, if you would, if you're not speaking, please mute. We're getting a little background noise.
And so some of the other shapes that we can do, you can see the grooves in there. I'm about a degree or so out so that it isn't perfectly fitting. Here is a way that it shows how the grooves can. I'm now going to go to my share screen and just go through a few points. And if I can work this share screen, then I'm going to get to there and share. Good. Now, originally when I was, many years ago, I was at Ontario Science Museum, and they had a Sopwith Piper Cub on display. This is not the same picture, but you can show how wooden grooves were used extensively in the early days for making airplane wings, and the strength to weight ratio that you could get out of the groove in the wood. This just explains again the use of the wood with small diameter logs that would normally split pretty extensively or twist if it was just a 2x4 sitting at Home Depot. But here we could again get 2 pieces out of wood out of the same one, which again is a very sustainable aspect. These are the 2 blade shapes. They can be put into pretty well any 1/2-inch router or router table, and all of the pieces can be made in a small workshop. These are a number of the different sizes of the family that all interlock together. I'm just repeating myself from earlier. And it's really important in order to make large quantities of furniture to have templates. And that beautiful book that the Woodworking Association has put out about toy making, constructing wooden toys, emphasizes the need for templates. We've made a large number of different templates for making various parts of the furniture and the buildings that we make. This again is just showing the groove. We've got the male groove and the female groove, and how they lock together and provide it's very much easier gluing together 2 groove bits of wood than it is having 2 bits of square S4S type wood, which tends to slide on you. The glue makes it even harder to hold together. And again, this is the picture I was showing you a moment ago with the groove, which is holding this. This could be a light standard where you could put the wiring, put the wiring up the center for a table lamp or a floor lamp. It could be table legs, could be anything, but it's a very strong little leg. This is a router table that I've made up, and we've got a female blade on this side with a table that slides back and forth, so we can slide the material through, and it's got backing, so we're not getting too much playback at the back of this. And this is the male side, which is exactly the same thing. So this basically, we can use this almost like a pencil sharpener. You just go to the wall, sharpen your pencil. So if you only want 2 feet of wood, you can just cut the 2 feet that you need, put the groove in it, and you're not having an inventory of wood, which is going to fill up the. Now we're talking here again. This is the dowel and the groove. This, you could use this rectangular block with square lumber, but it wouldn't be nearly as strong as it is with the groove in it. The groove, so simple, it makes a big difference. This is another piece of wood that is showing how the grooves can be. You can have two dowels to put this together. I'm going to stop sharing the screen in a moment, but this is what I'm hoping that we can get help with from the CNC people, you in the CNC group. Basically, these are 6 pieces of wood which have either the male or the female groove in them, which could be, and I'd like some input on whether it's possible to make a flat box with these grooves in it. And this is what so there's no end grain showing at all here. And the box tends to come back. So what I'd really like to get some comments is, instead of having the high density particle board thrown in the landfill, is it possible to use a CNC machine to make flat boxes like that, which could then be used to veneer, to do whatever is perhaps of interest to do. So if I'm going to stop sharing screen, and would like some comments about, and any questions at this stage of this horribly simple idea, but it's remarkably difficult to get it, the accuracy necessary just using the skill level I have, which is very low, and the machinery I have, which is fairly limited. So Ed, if we could get some comments of where we got to and any questions, that would be great.
Yeah, so all of you have, I think all of you have muted yourselves. So if you want to make a comment, ask a question, don't forget to unmute yourself. You can also hold down the space bar while you're talking, and that will serve the same purpose. But the idea here would be that there's a lot of wood that goes into landfills, and what Chris is trying to do is look for a way to reuse that rather than sending it to the landfill, to make projects that people can use during this, especially during this coronavirus time when you may have a little extra time on your hands, and that way now the material that we've got here, using the iGrooves, can probably be done on a CNC machine, but also it may be better that if there was a a V-groove that could be used to make a box that folds up, sort of like the Rockler V-groove system does with the table saw. So if anybody has any ideas or any questions for Chris, the floor is open. Peter, I see your lips moving, but you're muted.
It's there we go. Press Alt A to unmute your microphone.
Okay, I can hear you, Peter.
Oh, okay. Thanks. It seems that the first issue would be to where we could get those router bits. You can either use them or equivalently shaper bits to make the mating grooves.
Chris, can you stop sharing your screen too?
If I can find a way of doing it.
I think it should be at the top, a red button that says stop sharing.
It says I'm looking at Lou Adzima's screen.
Oh, really?
I don't think Chris is sharing. It seems to be Lou.
Okay, I stopped. There we go. Okay, Chris, where do we find the router bits?
At the moment, I have a manufacturer who specializes in high-grade router bits, and I order them specially. If we can go to the next stage, I'm going to go and talk to Rockler or somebody like that to get the router bits. At the moment, I can lend you router bits if anybody's interested in pursuing this further. But these router bits, these are two that that haven't been used yet, but they are readily available. They take about a week to get at the moment because they're specialty. But if this ever takes off, it'll just be the same price as the typical router bits, and there are only 6 router bits. For the big size, the 2x4s, that needs to have a planer, molder planer or some machine or a shaper to do that. And I've lent my Woodmaster planer molder to Lumber Cycle, and they can make all of these shapes for you using my machinery down there. So that if you anybody wanted a few lengths of wood to just try this out, it would be easy to get that to you. And then if you want to go further because of the potential that there is, then it's fairly easy to get it to the point of pretty well mass production. The machine that they have down at Lumber Cycle produces wood to the level of probably, there's the small ones, 64 feet a minute, something more than that. But the router table that I showed you, that I can just go along and make 10 feet or 4 feet of the product very, very fast. So that's a significant detail that has got to be covered, but at this stage, it's expensive, but it shouldn't be in the future if a number of people started ordering them. I don't know if that answers your question, Peter.
Well, sort of, yes, but if you could share the name of the company that you buy the bits from, maybe we could get started that way.
Yeah, okay. I don't have it at hand at the moment, but I'll send it to Ed.
You can get that to me and I'll include it in the notes with the meeting.
That'd be great.
Anyone else with a question?
So would it be possible to make these flat boxes on the CNC machine, and so they all go together.
Well, I think that, and anybody else can speak up too. I think that if you pre-cut the pieces, you could certainly put the edges on them with the router bits, but you can also do that on a router table. I'm not sure that there would be a huge advantage there. What I was interested in is I was looking through your materials earlier. I don't know if you've seen that Rockler has a Vgroove table saw setup blade. And with that, what you can do is you can make boxes that also show no ingrain by cutting a V in the surface of the wood, but leaving a little bit of wood fiber at the back. And then you fold up the wood into the shape of a box and glue it. And I think if you were going to go to a CNC machine, you could make patterns like that could be reused over and over again. You just put down a flat piece, and just cut it, and then put down the next piece.
Yes. And then, so basically that's pretty well exactly the same system that I'm using, except my groove is decorative.
Right.
And the V is not decorative. And the blades are already made for the V. And some of my products, I got an inverted V, which you can make a groove a bit like a dovetail groove for certain of the products. But it is just an extension of that. So actually going to Rockler and saying, would you please think about doing this in addition to your Vgroove system? But basically, I don't know if we can get back to.
Does anybody here have experience with machining the edge of the boards on the CNC?
You mean as in doing joinery on the end of the board?
Well, if you were to take one of those iWood bits that Chris has and lay the board, would you lay the board flat, or would you try to create a jig, put it up on edge? How would you approach that, Peter?
Sorry, I was just wondering that myself. I think you sort of have to figure out which bits you want. You could use a V bit to go down a little bit, and then you'd come out and down again and back in and down. I'm not quite sure. You might want to run it through the table saw to get the first 45 degree, and then come in and, I don't know. I think it's just a sequence of cuts that you have to make to get that profile. Just have them
well, or if you had that bit and you had a jig on your CNC where you could place that piece of wood down so that it's up off the surface, and then you set up your job to run around the outside of the piece of wood, you could do it that way as well, probably.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think in the absence of that particular bit, you'd have to sort of make several passes.
Yeah. Any other?
Having the single bit that's ready to make pretty well anything from sort of a cutting board, which a grooved cutting board is going to be stronger than a straight edge cutting board, and it's going to be easier to hold it together and get make sure that both sides are absolutely smooth, so you can plane it rather than sand it flat. Then you can also use the same groove to cut a 2x2, put 4 grooves in that, and you've got a table leg. It's just part of the overall package. And this particular use is just one of the uses that means that we can use grooved wood instead of S4S wood in a large number of different products, ranging from houses to furniture to cutting boards to anything you can use wood for. And then so that you've got the sustainability aspect and the fact that we could be saving up to certainly 10%, maybe even up to 30% of the fiber that we bring out of the forest. And that will make one hell of a difference to the green aspect of what we're doing and the problems we're going through with climate change and all the rest of it. And just all of the lumber, when you ship it, if it's shipped with the grooves already in it, that's 30% less weight and volume on a truck. So your shipping costs are 30% less. Your storage percent at home size in Home Depot would be 30% smaller. The number of trips that you take going to the Home Depot to pick up a load of lumber would be 30% less. Be 30% less lumber that you take on your shoulder and lift up to the second floor of the house. So basically, there are incremental benefits all the way through this. And what we're looking at the moment is what I'm hoping to see, that if there is a way to look at this as a possible way of making very, very simple boxes. And if I can go back to and I don't know if you can you give me full screen again for a moment?
Actually, I've lost my full screen here. Hold on, let me see what I can do here. I've lost my window.
Well, Chris, when you're talking, you're not exactly full screen, but at least on my monitor, you're almost full screen. So I think I can see what you're trying to show us.
Okay. This is a box that is made the way I'm talking about. The sides all fit, and it's tight enough just from the friction of the unit to hold like that. So it's a really airtight box. And
Chris, I hate to interrupt again, but you need to hold it up higher.
okay.
Move to the right and up a little bit, please.
So the box fits perfectly because of the grooves. If you had a V groove, this wouldn't work. But there's just enough friction in that so that you've got a completely clean box all the way around, no edge grain showing. And if this was made out of something like HDF, you could then use that as a veneer base to make a beautiful veneered box at the outside without going through all of the rigmarole that Doug has gone through in making his beautiful box in the veneering program, if any of you are watching that. So that the potential for getting people in condos, etc., who don't have the ability to have a big workshop, they can buy a flat box that they can just put together. And ideally, the second part of the challenge would be to try and put this together just with a dowel. So if you made the flat box and then you could put it together with a dowel and you could then glue it, you suddenly got something that is very simple for unskilled people to make, and they can put the veneer on the outside. One of the things I would like to do would be to go to a jigsaw manufacturer and say, would you please make jigsaws to fit these panels? So you send somebody a box, in a flat pack, and they get the complete box, which and that is basically, whoops,
There you go.
that's the six sections of the box, which I hoped it was possible to cut on a CNC machine in a flat manner, so that you've got all the six pieces being cut like that. Then you put it together, send it off to somebody to put together, and then you have the ability to end up with the dowel box that you, and there's enough pressure from that 45-degree angle there, so that you probably don't even need any grooves, any clamps for gluing the whole thing together. It's something you can do on your kitchen table in a condo, and so it's got possibilities. Then the same groove. This is different, not from the box point of view, but again, that being used to make, that's now a strong enough joint basically for to make it some stilts for a young kid. It'd be almost impossible to break that down. So we're talking about using the groove and the dowel as an approach to making other things, but including the box. And there's another product that if I can go back to, can I go back to sharing screen again for a moment?
Yes.
Okay. Share. Now this is a small little doll's house basically I made using a CNC machine. It's actually the CNC machine that used to be at Maker Place that is now down at Lumber Cycle. And we took basically one sheet of 4x8 birch, and we made about 24 units of this little cottage. And then the concept was to get this in a kit form and then put it in a box and send it off with the tools, etc., necessary to put it together in a home setting. And if I'm going to stop sharing again and go back to, and I'm not sure how I'm going to do this, but let's try up here. Here are the basic pieces going together. This is the part made on the CNC machine, and
Move to your right a little bit. There you go.
so when I'm putting the bottom plate together, this is a bit of a juggling act. So now we've got the bottom plate, and this is what the finished unit would be. It's got slots in the bottom so that
And so this would be for like a dollhouse,
yes,
playhouse.
and these panels could be plywood or it could be cardboard, whatever the person wanted to do. And so kids could have this, they could make a house and have an interesting little project. Is that again something that might be of interest to people to make? And we've actually set up an organization which is looking for products similar to this, or to the boxes that we can start to sell on the internet for people sitting at home who parents may have had workshops, but they don't have them anymore. And so it's becoming a lost art. And so we're talking about bringing ideas, wooden toys and furniture that can be made very easily without upsetting the next door neighbor in the condo. So we're trying to open up the markets for lumber products that will perhaps encourage people to start going to the next stage and getting more expensive equipment and going to Maker Place or going to Maker Toy or whatever it is, and joining San Diego Fine Woodworkers Association to get to the next stage, to use more wood, because we feel that there's a terrific waste of skill in the people that, like the people looking here on this program, and the knowledge that you could impart to the next generation is fantastic. And the equipment that you have that's sitting making, collecting dust, which isn't always wood dust, in workshops, etc. And it would be possible to get more people interested in using wood. And from an environmental point of view, if people see these funny shapes of wood, they can say, oh yes, that's green. We should be using that wood. At the moment, we have a system whereby you stamp, this is a sustainable forest, with a little tiny stamp on a 2x4. And you think you're clever in saving wood by going to that forest. But if you can visually see the shape, then it becomes something that, yes, you are helping. So I'm totally out of focus. I'm totally sort of off message here, but this is part of the message that I'm talking about. And I've written a book that's just about to be, it's available, that basically covers all of these ideas, and if anybody is interested in looking at this to understand where we're coming from and why it might be worth going to Rockler and saying, look, let's have, instead of having this Vgroove, which I hadn't heard about this before, but thank you for that information. But basically, my system is a groove system similar to the Vgroove, using dowels that can potentially save a terrific amount of the world's wood. And I've got one chapter about the financial aspect, and this idea could save billions and billions of dollars a year, and it could provide homes and furniture for billions of people as well. So,
well, Chris, I think that's a marvelous idea that you've had. It's very clever and very interesting, and I want to thank you for presenting it to us today. I will post this video along with the links to treecycling.com and iWoodKits.com. And also, can I post your contact information in case anybody wants to get in touch with you for follow-up?
I'd be just delighted, yes.
Okay, excellent.